Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, OperationDarkHeart.com. Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer is a highly experienced intelligence officer and recipient of the Bronze Star, 25 years of field experience. Tony has commanded and directed several key operations, intelligence organizations. These include Special Mission Task Force Stratus Ivy that conducted direct support of DOD, compartmentalized activities, OSD, SOCOM, the Army. It goes on about, go through his entire bio here. Operation Dark Heart Story, the New York Times bestseller. They suppressed a lot of it. They bought up some of the first books and then blacked out a lot of it. So they've really been trying to keep him from telling the population of this country and the world what he told Congress and what was suppressed during the 9/11 Commission as well. And he joins us to talk about all of this today. Colonel, good to have you here with us.
Well, thank you for having me again, Alex. Good to be on with you.
There is so much to talk about today, and we're going to break in a moment. This is a short segment. But okay. Out of the gates, just recap what happened with your book and what your book does deal with that certain elements of the Pentagon don't want people to see.
Well, it's ironic, Alex, when you think about it. We talked about this on your show. As a matter of fact, we had a detailed discussion about the fact that the Army had just completed reviewing and clearing it the first time you and I talked. So it's interesting that according to the Defense Intelligence Agency, they did not have a clue. They had no clue that the book was coming until like midsummer. I mean, it's beyond the pale of belief. And plus, in addition to mentioning it on your show, I mentioned it on national TV, the O'Reilly show, Larry King, and in the end, they decided, DOD, with Defense Intelligence Agency leading the charge, literally decided to intercede on the publication of my book the day before the book was going to be distributed nationally. So you got to wonder, why on earth would you wait to the very last minute? It was very clear, just to summarize before we get into the details, they meant to disrupt the release of the book for any number of reasons. And obviously, despite the fact that it was cleared by the Army, there were apparently a number of things in the book that DOD, and again, the Defense Intelligence Agency is different than the Army. If your listeners do understand it, they are distinctively different organizations within the Department of Defense. And often they have different objectives and views. And for whatever reason, the DIA has, and I think you and I know why, DIA has some pretty bad feelings about me and my disclosures back in 2003, initially to Philip Zelikow at Bagram regarding Able Danger, and then, of course, my testimony, which got me fired in 2005 and 2006. So it's really those issues, I believe, are at the core of why they did this, literally the 11th hour, interdiction of the book, trying to cause maximum disruption and havoc, essentially to send a message to others to say, you probably don't want to, break ranks because we're just going to make your life miserable any chance we get.
And, of course, we've heard about these new DOD rules that officers can't talk to any media about any subject without authorization. Have they been trying to use that on you?
Well, it's interesting. I did seek and I did obtain guidance before the current publicity tour I'm doing right now. And so essentially the guidance I've been given is that I can talk about the book, which has been cleared, but I have to be careful. I can't talk about certain elements of the Army, I'm an Army reservist, so there's certain things I can't talk about within the context of that. And obviously that I've been reminded of my security oath, which, I'm not sure if you're aware, but my security clearance was restored as part of the review of the book. So obviously they try to use that to prohibit me from talking about the information they took out of the book. And by the way, Alex, that's going to be subject of a First Amendment suit against DOD here in the very near future.
Well, let's talk about that suit, what you can talk about that's in the book, and if you can give us any hints in the parameters of the law about what was excised from the book, and we'll also get into some other key issues with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer with his #1 bestseller out there right now. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Mega corporations have basically taken over this country and almost every other nation. They are destroying the Bill of Rights and Constitution. We are broadcasting in occupied territory. We want our republic, our Bill of Rights, our Constitution back. OperationDarkHeart.com is the website. The book is the Operation Dark Heart Story, now a New York Times bestseller. Now, the Pentagon grabbed the book, destroyed the original copies, made a deal with the publisher to black out large parts of it. And Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer is one of the chief officers over Stratus Ivy, or the head of that, and also involved deeply in Able Danger. And what is in the book is what he told Congress, and so much came out as the book neared its publication, backing up everything he talked about, that I think that's one of the biggest reasons they've tried to suppress your book. Am I wrong in saying that, Colonel?
No, I think you're right. I think there's three things in popular media right now that you can refer to and very easily pick it up. As a matter of fact, a fellow author at my publisher is General Hugh Shelton. His book is just out, and he actually talks about the existence and success of Able Danger in on page 280, 283. So right there's a clue. The next big clue that people have talked about in a little bit is the book called Horse Soldiers, where General Jeffrey Lambert talks about the fact that not only did we discover Muhammad Atta as part of Able Danger, that he was briefed on, he admits this, he was the guy who prohibited me from moving the information to the FBI relating to the 9/11 terrorists. And then most damning, I think, was a Fox News thing, which was done recently, I think within the last 2 weeks, relating to the fact that they got a hold of the DOD Inspector General report, God bless him for getting a copy that was unredacted, which means they could go out and talk to the actual individuals. The DOD IG had tried to hide the individuals by basically coding everybody, which made it, kind of a gobbledygook, and you really couldn't make heads nor tails of who said what. And I think they did it for a reason. They used the Privacy Act as an excuse, but I think clearly their intention was something different. Well, anyway, they got a copy of the unredacted report with the names. And, of course, the first thing any good investigative organization is going to do is go back and check. And that's what they did. They went back and re-interviewed folks and showed these folks their testimony. The interview results, basically the summary of what was attributed to them. And I think everybody they talked to said, that's not what I said. That's not remotely what I said. And oh, by the way, they left out key information to include the fact that in one instance, one of the witnesses talked about the fact that she was the one who discovered the Muhammad Atta photo. So it's kind of like, those are kind of big facts, and why would you leave those out if not for the fact that you had a narrative you wanted to say that that any facts counter to that narrative would be deleted. So yeah, I think your listeners can go check for themselves. A lot of this is coming out now, and I think one of the grand ironies in all this, Alex, is DOD right before that story on the DOD IG report came out, the DOD spokesman said they stand by the report. So you got to ask yourself what's going on if they still stand by a report which has clearly been proven to be less than accurate. And why would they be standing by an inaccurate report if not for some reason?
Well, Colonel, in a nutshell, for new listeners, they've heard about Able Danger, they've heard about Colonel Schaefer, but they heard about your book being suppressed, but what's the bottom line of the story? And correct me if I'm wrong, it's that elements of the Army, headed up by you and others, knew the attacks were coming, knew who the people were, wanted to take them out, and you were blocked from doing that. And some of that came out at the time. Army's angry. Colonels are angry. They had bin Laden and Atta in their sights. They were told to stand down. And then the media spun it, well, it was a turf battle. The CIA and private contractors, weren't sharing information, or they wanted to be able to, be the ones that gave the green light, kind of like it's branches of the regular armed services fighting with each other. But, I mean, in a nutshell, boil down what Able Danger was doing, as much as you can say, and what the book gets into on that subject.
Well, let me get into it. Able Danger was essentially a pre-9/11 designed in the 99 time frame to be an offensive, and this is very critical for your listeners to understand. This was an offensive capability. So often in the Department of Defense we defend things. This was something meant to be something we could go out and take proactive action, and that's the key here, to go after global terrorism, and the primary focus was Al-Qaeda. That's very clear what the objective was. Within the context of that, then, we started doing, and I can't get into the specific operational objectives, but I can say that the data mining thing is but one aspect of it. And the data mining thing, while crucial and has become the public face of it, there is a lot more to it than that still cannot be talked about for any number of reasons. But they do relate to the fact that the idea was to go after these guys offensively. And within the ramp up, any good operation, you have a period of time you're trying to do planning, you're trying to put things together. The ramp up portion included the data mining effort, which was to map Al-Qaeda. And Alex, there was some turf battles, and this is one of those things that recently Michael Schroyer and I were on a show together, and I think he and I publicly disagree about specific operational issues because I think there was competition. But the one thing I think he and I both agreed on is that the aftermath of whatever you want to call happened, there was no intention of taking information from him or me to try to put the pieces back together. With that said, let me continue on the Able Danger issue. Able Danger then was created. We put essentially a blue ribbon team together. General Peter Schoonmaker, Commander of Special Operations Command, was really the protector of it. And the idea was to be prepared on call to go after Al-Qaeda and not to interfere with what Alex Station, and there's been a great deal of discussion, public discussion about Alex Station, Alex Base, and what they did to target bin Laden for covert action. We were not going after bin Laden. We were going after the infrastructure, looking at elements of that infrastructure for purposes of understanding it primarily, and then at some appropriate time using a variety of techniques and procedures to do something to degrade it, to make it less effective than it might be. And that's where the mystery deepens by the fact that we had continued to work until essentially January of 2001, at which time everything stops. There was a briefing to General Hugh Shelton. This was made public, and then that's where the trail kind of ends.
So you were blocked, bottom line, from frustrating Al-Qaeda.
That's a great summary. Yes, that's essentially the bottom line of what happened. Yes.
Okay, let's get to the heart of this. I'm sure you know about Sybil Edmonds, FBI translator. She's broken her gag order in court. Headline: CIA in control of Al-Qaeda up until day of 9/11. She's listening to people inside our government talking to Al-Qaeda leadership, and you see that and you think this woman has no reason to lie. Then we have this Fox News headline yesterday: exclusive Al-Qaeda leader dined at Pentagon just months after 9/11. Anwar al-Awlaki, he's the guy reportedly behind the Fort Hood nut. He's the guy behind the underwear dud. He's the guy behind the Times Square, we're told. He's always in contact. And then the CIA for 2 years knows that he's talking to this Army officer, the psychiatrist. Right. And I mean, this is amazing. What do you say to that?
Well, this is where you and I may disagree. I don't know. I'm trying to keep my faith in the government as best I can. And from my own personal experience, I've seen huge incompetence. And I know that a lot of folks think there may be something more to that. I honestly don't know. I'll say this: the only way we're going to get to the bottom of anything relating to Anwar al-Awlaki, the relationship between he and the Department of Defense, and frankly the FBI. The FBI at one point in time, if you check the record of Fox News' reporting on this, they actually canceled an arrest warrant for him. He was here illegally by the fact that there was a warrant out for his arrest because he fraudulently came to the United States as a foreign student and had his college paid for.
Well, it's the same thing with the SWAT, the supposed mastermind of 7/7, BBC headline: a SWAT MI6 protected after attacks. I mean, here you've got somebody having dinner in a big meeting with the Secretary of the Army, who's a supposed college student who the news is already saying is involved in 9/11. But if I try to get into the Pentagon, I'm not going to be able to meet with a sergeant. I mean, this is amazing.